Rebel Force Radio presents
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
This is the RFR Mandalorian After Show.
You know, I watch this show for escapism. I don't need real world stuff. Arguments about wearing masks on the Mandalorian. Did you see that big fight that Bo-Katan and Din Djarin were having? I'm the real Mandalorian. I don't take my mask off. No, you're just part of some cult. Anybody catch that? It's like kind of disagreements we're having here in our real world. But I tell you what, nothing real world is going to drag me down from the high of Chapter 11, The Heiress. What a show. I mean, to think that we're watching live-action Star Wars Mandalorians beating up stormtroopers, I mean, that just doesn't get any better. And I will say one thing off the bat. There were moments when, because the production values of the Clone Wars series was so high, there were moments during that skirmish on the Imperial cruiser that I couldn't tell what I was. Was I watching Clone Wars? Was I watching live action Star Wars in The Mandalorian? Because the line really has been blurred for me because, again, of those incredible production values and the way that they brought Bo-Katan to life. Just incredible. Oh, yes, chut, John on the chat, reminding everybody, chut, indeed. But here, we're just chomping at the bit to get into this episode. But before we do, introductions are in order because we know that we've got new folks joining us by leaps and bounds as the show grows. My name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack. Oh, what's he doing? No. Was that? Oh, he just ate an egg. Oh, look at this. Oh, my gosh. Was that, what kind of egg? Well, it's too early for the Cadbury eggs. That's a real egg. That's like a real hard-boiled egg in one bite. He just slurped it down. Like baby, what's he going to chase it down with? Oh, some water. Okay. All right. Some water. All right. That's fine.
Frog egg.
Well, just give him a minute, folks. He'll,
Baby Yoda's onto something. They're delicious.
No. Look at that. Oh, yeah, I think you got a little there. A little bit right there. Right
sorry.
Yeah, there it is. You got it. He's got it. All right.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Welcome to the Mandalorian After Show. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, I think we interrupted dinner here with Jimmy Mack. Yeah, well, that's really something. Have you ever eaten a raw egg? Have you ever done that? Where you just put it in a cup and just
Well, yeah.
You done that?
The
Yeah.
Rocky Balboa?
The Rocky Balboa.
Okay.
And I thought, there was a time where I thought that was going to make me buff and stuff. But it just made me sick. It was pretty bad. No, we love to tease about our special guests here on the Mandalorian After Show, and this week does not disappoint. This is one of our absolute best pals in the whole galaxy, and just one of our favorites to sit and talk to about Star Wars, and not just Star Wars, anything, everything. He's like the sort of the unofficial pastor of the Rebel Force Radio family. I'm talking about Big Steve Glosson. Great to have you.
Chut, fellas.
Chut, Steve. That's beginning to catch on, and that's kind of fun.
Well, you got to say it with the attitude, though. Chut.
Indeed. Chut. Oh, yeah. It does require a certain casual tude. Yeah, it does.
Right.
Because the way he sidles up, for those who are wondering where it comes from, it's an allusion to reference to Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, when Anakin reunites with Watto. Chut, Watto. Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you back, Steve.
It sure is.
For the Mandalorian After Show.
Yeah.
Can I show you guys something that I found today while grocery shopping?
An egg.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well,
the egg. I think
We've
you did.
already seen it.
It came in a 2-pack
Oh,
of frog eggs. But no, let's put that aside and take a look at what I stumbled across in the produce section at Sam's Club today. It's Mandalorian grapes. Can we get that into focus a little bit?
Well,
Let's see.
I can't focus, but it might.
All right, hold on. Let's try something different here. We'll go like this. We'll do that, and then maybe that'll help.
There we go. Oh, look at this.
look at that.
Okay, now I know that Star Wars has a history of having all kinds of licensing, and they put their label, their logo, their brand on just about anything. But I have not seen grapes. I think we had bananas during the sequel
oranges,
trilogy. Did we have oranges, Steve?
It comes.
Yeah, they did like oranges or like the cuties or something with BB-8 on the package.
Oh.
Well, look, what's cool about it comes in this collectible wooden box that has this cool stuff aside. That's what really made
now
it
that's
attractive.
cool. That is cool. It's more than just. Look at that.
You see that? And then what is here? There's another Baby Yoda, and the same thing on this side. So,
Yeah,
limited edition. So
Hey, I see people in the chat kind of laughing off, but I got to. Whoa! You took the display.
Well, so I got the grapes.
Nice.
But I'm just thinking, Jim, of what ephemera you're going to be able to store in that wooden crate, in that grape crate, because it's like the perfect little inbox for your desk, like an in tray.
Yeah. Great.
Look at that.
So I got
Limited
one
edition
for me, and I got one for Rancho Obi-Wan as well.
Oh,
because I don't think Steve really has access to Sam's Club. So I'm going to send him a crate of grapes. Star Wars fandom takes you into weird places sometimes.
It really does. So, Jim, you're just minding your own business at the grocery store today, thinking about Mandalorian after show, and there you just stumble upon Baby Yoda right there in the aisles, right there in the produce.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty cool. And it said limited edition, and there really weren't that many there available for sale. So if you have a Sam's Club in your area and you're within earshot of my voice and that's something you want to pick up for your collection and nutrition, you can do so by visiting Sam's Club. But I would get on it right away because there were not many at the one local to my area.
Going tomorrow.
Yeah, Steve's already got it. He's got the.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Gotta go tomorrow. Booked. Wow, that is cool. I mean, at first I was like, oh, it's just a little, it's just a little insert there in the grapes packaging, but to actually have that crate with the kind of the branded, burnished artwork in there, that is pretty cool. Well, let's get into this, guys. The tale of the tape, we're talking about The Mandalorian, Season 2, Chapter 11, and this episode was far from bankrupt, let me tell you. I've been waiting weeks to say that. I teased it a couple weeks ago. But yes, Chapter 11, The Heiress, and looking at a premiere date of November 13th, 2020, for those of you listening to this into the future, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, and written by Jon Favreau. Now, Bryce Dallas Howard also directed an episode in Season 1, Sanctuary, and that is, of course, where the Mandalorian met up with Cara Dune for the first time and met Omera, I believe it was, and hung out there with the... it was kind of like Little House on the Prairie meets Star Wars a little bit, I thought. But if you thought that Bryce Dallas Howard was only capable of directing an episode like that, boy, oh boy, you got another thing coming, because this thing was action-packed right from the get-go, guys. And something that I find remarkable is how this show continues to build tension. You know that there's so much equity in these characters, in Baby Yoda, in The Mandalorian, and you think, that no harm is going to come to him, but man, oh man, from that crash landing that they have on Trask to Baby Yoda being pulled down by the Mama Corps, it just, Steve, my heart palpitates when I watch the show. Am I just overly sensitive, or is this show delivering for you in that way as well?
It is. I think last week's episode really this whole season has been very rife with OMG kind of moments. We're 3 for 3 for Star Wars beasts in episodes. But
Yes,
with that landing and then the tip over into the water. I mean, like, it was funny, but it's still at the same time, it's like, what else can go wrong for the love of all that is good? For the love of the Force, what else can go wrong?
I like that walker crane that lifted it up out of the water.
Yeah.
It was similar to something you'd see in the background in Corellia in Solo. But this one looked like it had a lot more detail to it, and it was, I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool. Crane walker.
Yeah, and I liked, Jim, I'm sure you picked up on the sound effects that the crane walker was making. Very familiar. I ran it back a couple of times, and I was blanking as to which classic vehicle it was. It may have actually been some of the effects that they used for the walker, but there was definitely a familiar zzz, as the servo motors were in overdrive, pulling the Razor Crest out of the depth. So they build tension really well. And another thing that, and I my son pointed this out. He said, and it's funny what comes out of the mouth of an 8-year-old. He goes, Dad, there doesn't seem to be any time between the episodes, the chapters. They're just going one to the next. And that's something I hadn't really thought of, but they do seem to be just running right into each other. So this has like more of a continuous story. Do you think, Jim, that is a way to avoid what there were a few episodes that were criticized in season 1 about being filler? Is that how they're going to avoid that this year, or do they just have so much story, you think?
I personally didn't find anything in season 1 to be filler, so I think they should just stay the course, because it does roll out very evenly and smoothly. There's a flow to this story, and we're just along for the ride. So I'm not aware of any filler, but that's just someone else's take. My take is I believe this story is unfolding in a nice, even way, going right in order. And it's all just been great. I've been enjoying every moment of it. So no filler.
No filler in season 1 for Jimmy Mack. Now, the obvious draw for a lot of fans right now is that the lore of the Mandalorians is being explored. We got a lot of details from Bo-Katan about what's been happening in this world of the Mandalorian since we last saw them in Clone Wars and then in Rebels. One thing that we learned, wait, before we get into all that, I don't want to skip over the inhabitants of Trask. It was pretty fun to watch the Mon Cals and the Quarrens together. We know from Clone Wars that these two species are together a lot, but they don't really like each other all that much. And I noticed in the restaurant, Steve, that they didn't hang out. Did you notice that in the restaurant it was just all Quarrens or it was all Mon Cals?
I did. Now that you mention it, yes, but I didn't pick up on that while we were watching. I did think about it. The guy that I was watching with, we talked about it, and he's like, they don't get along, right? It's kind of weird to see them together, because was it season 4 of the Clone Wars where we saw that the Quarren were teamed up with the Separatists and the Mon Cal were all on the side of the Galactic Republic, and so there seems to be some type of divide there anyway. But so he kind of picked up on that. And like, it was just kind of weird to see them together. But I did notice that when they got on the ship to go out, that it was nothing but Quarren for the most part. And
yeah, they definitely proved it. It seems as though the Mon Cals maybe are more the engineers, the repairmen, and the Quarrens tend to be a little bit more of the labor class on Trask or in the Star Wars universe. That's sort of what I was picking up. I thought the Mon Cal costumes, which are outfits, the makeup, the masks, I thought looked great. I know that has been some criticism about the Mon Cals and how they looked in the sequel trilogy and then in Rogue One, but I thought these thought they looked great. I mean, it's hard when you're so used to looking at one version of a particular species, in the case of Bosk as a Trandoshan or Akbar as a Mon. Now, there were other Mon Cals, but they all looked a lot like Akbar. It wasn't until, I think, Rogue One when you started to see like a little bit more variation in the Mon Cals. Of course, you saw that in the animated series as well. But so people are kind of, when something looks, as Paul Bateman would say, off-modal, sometimes it's just because you're so used to seeing one particular character. But as Steve points out, yeah, you can't trust these Quarrens very much. It took me a little while to realize I had to go put the subtitles on why the Quarren betrayed the Mandalorian. First I thought, they know he's wanted. And perhaps they've even heard of the bounty on the child. But it seems, Jim, that it was all about the Beskar.
Yes, all about the Beskar. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All about the Beskar. Something I did notice about the Quarren is when I watched via the subtitles, the Quarren on the boat were all referred to as Quarren's brother. Mm-hmm. And then when the Mando gets confronted in the alleyway when he reaches the shore by the other Quarren, the one who confronts him is simply Quarren. So I thought that was kind of weird.
Oh, okay.
Like Quarren's a guy.
Yeah, right.
And
wait, his name was Quarren?
Is his brother.
A brother Quarren?
Yes. Well, again, I find it funny that squid and fish are wearing waders and boots and things like that. God forbid they get wet. It's a squid. Come on. But you take these. They're basically, everyone on this show is basically human, regardless of whether they're alien or not. Right. Everyone is being portrayed as having human tendencies and things like that. For the most part. I mean, Baby Yoda eats frogs, live frogs. You don't see many humans doing that. And you wonder by the end of this episode if Baby Yoda is ever going to eat a frog again. I think he learned to value the little critters there. But back to the Quarren. I really liked how they had those articulated tentacles like Davy Jones from the...
Yes, I was thinking Captain Barbossa. Isn't that what his name was? No, Davy Jones. No, that's right.
Davy Jones.
Davy
from,
Jones, the monkeys.
Dead Man's Chest. And Industrial Light and Magic, of course, pioneered all of that CGI to bring that character to life. And they won an Academy Award back in 2006 for that film. And that's what I was thinking when I was looking at that. It's like, well, they got probably the same guys who did some of the work on Davy Jones is probably still at ILM and possibly working on this show. So there's a rich history of special effects coming to life on every episode of The Mandalorian. I noticed someone's name in the credits today. There's somebody, and I didn't see what he does, some sort of visual effects, but his last name was Ralston. And I wonder if that's maybe the son of Ken Ralston, who worked at ILM on the original trilogy and pioneered a lot of those great special effects. I don't know. I didn't have time to look it up, but I did like the Quarren in this, and I liked the Mon Cal too. Seeing Mon Cal with like living eyeballs and stuff.
Yes, that's what I mean. I think that they really made some improvements, even since Rogue One and the sequel trilogy. You know what? One name, Jimmy, that I didn't see in the credits, and I looked. No love for Frog Gentleman. Frog Lady is still in the credits. No Frog Gentleman.
Huh. Frog Man, I think.
Well, if it's Lady, then it's going to be Gentleman, right? It wasn't Frog Woman. It wasn't Frog Woman.
Classing up the scene on Trask for sure. Frog Gentleman.
Well, I mean, that's what it is.
And Frog Man.
But it does prove, if you what we've known about couples, if you stay with someone long enough, you start to look a lot alike. And I noticed that Frog Man or Frog Gentleman and Frog Lady did look a lot alike.
Yeah. Well, that's like you said, that's what happens after you've been together for a while. My wife hopes that doesn't happen to her. Back to the, you talk about Davy Jones. I did say today as we were watching, I was like, what fortuitous circumstances be this? But also the Mon Cal,
nobody bombs a joke as well as Steve. Nobody.
Well, he sold it with the pops at
the
end,
pop.
man.
Yeah, the pop was good.
The
Johnny Carson of podcasting.
Paul Bateman was talking about, Jason, you talked about the costumes and everything. Paul has a problem with the shirts that all the Mon Cal are wearing. That they're all wearing the same shirt.
Oh no, what happened?
Yeah,
he sent us an email. Let me dig it up. Let's not put words in his mouth.
The same shirt on all of them.
Here it is.
They're all wearing the same shirt.
No. He says Hondo Onaka is totally going to show up. That's Paul's prediction.
Okay.
And he says he has one single crit.
Oh.
Crit. I like how that sounds.
That's Brit for criticism.
I have a single crit. He says those calamari pullovers and waiters were not from a galaxy far, far away. Smiley face emoji, Paul.
But here's the thing. Here's what's cool about it. Those pullovers really accent the forearms of the Mon Cal. So you've got a bunch of guys looking like Popeye walking around.
Yes, it did. By the way, Steve, I got to give a shout out here to Bob Barbarian in the super chat. Thank you very much, Bob. He said that the clutter in your background is driving him nuts. He'd love to come over and organize for you to spark joy.
Sorry,
so,
I can do some work while we're here, but I just.
All right. Where do we go? So what I was saying about the Beskar is you've got a depressed, economy across the galaxy, and really what Mando's doing is he's walking around like in a suit of gold, essentially. If we were to like bring it to sort of a real world comparison, and so not only, could the guy who's trying to hide the child, Baby Yoda, could he be less conspicuous as he's running around basically in a gold lame suit? It's made out of real gold.
Right. Yeah,
just an observation.
And the Mandalorians, no matter where they come from, whether they're a Bo-Katan Mandalorian or a group that is like from where Din comes from, it seems like they always sort of work in the shadows. They don't expose themselves out in the open that much.
Right.
So he's walking around in basically this shiny Cadillac of armor and sticking out like a sore thumb. Plus he's flying around in an old antique ship that also, I think, raises some eyebrows. When doesn't it seem that way? Like everyone's sort of surprised to see that thing when it shows up. Look at that old thing. Look at that antique.
Where did you get that hunk of junk?
Yeah, well, that's I think the vibe that they're definitely trying to establish. But.
Right out of the gate with the very first episode back in season 1, Bluegill Boy, he was like, it's a Razor Crest. It's pre-Empire. Like he absolutely was impressed with the age and what was going on there. And I believe even the jerk X-Wing pilots from last week were kind of like,
Yep.
They were jerks, weren't they?
They really were.
Thanks for saying that, Steve.
It was like, hey, can you help me out here? No, we're just not going to arrest you. See ya. Yeah. Hope you freeze. Yeah.
So, all right. So we see, of course, the big moment is we get to see Bo-Katan flanked by. Now we know. Steve. I know, Steve. You're such a big wrestling fan. Probably we're excited to see Sasha Banks there officially.
Boss. Yeah, the boss. But that's not. She wasn't credited there as Sasha Banks. She went by her real name.
Right.
So, hey. Casca Reeves is her name there, but I remember the credits. They didn't give her Sasha Banks name. They called her by her real
Mercedes
name. Mercedes
Varnado.
Thank you. Because,
so it's sort of
listen, spoiler to everybody, they use stage names in wrestling. I don't know if people realize that or not.
Wow, you really got to be hard-pressed if your name is Mercedes and you still need a stage name.
That's right. There's a whole behind-the-scenes bunch of crap about it, Jim. We don't want to get into it. Right?
Oh, no.
I did not know. I was really glad that she didn't end up being Sabine.
Yeah.
Because I know there was a lot of talk that, hey, she's going to be Sabine, because Sasha Banks in her wrestling persona has multicolored hair.
That's right.
And so I think that people just honestly thought, oh, she's got multicolored hair, she's going to be Sabine.
Right.
Yep.
But I was glad she
I was
wasn't,
one of those, but I didn't have that dumb voice that you gave me.
You sure? You sure?
Play
Almost
back the tape.
you sure? Almost gave me hand, foot, and mouth disease at Celebration.
That's not a euphemism, folks. That's not a colloquialism. That's reality. That is a
You
literal.
really almost gave it to me.
Yeah, truth.
But no, I was glad, because I really feel like if Sabine's going to come to the screen in live action, if it, obviously I don't know that Tia Sakar would do it. I don't know, but I do know that it needs to be someone who may be an unknown or known than not that wrestling is as big as it once was, but there's still a very devout following of that. I thought Sasha Banks did great in the role. I thought she did everything she needed to do. She carried herself well. She wore the armor well. She had just the right attitude. I did not see Sasha Banks on screen, which I think is vitally important.
Right.
When you come to a project like this. In the same way, I didn't see Katie Sackhoff on screen as Bo-Katan. I thought they did a fantastic job with her hair, with her look, so that you knew exactly who she was, and there were no visions of fake Starbuck flying through your head or anything like that.
Wait a minute. Fake Starbuck. Did I hear that
real,
right? Fake Starbuck?
I'm
I
with
believe
you
the
on
real
that.
Starbuck was played by Dirk Benedict.
That's right. Say it loud, say it proud.
Come on, Jason.
You have to have watched it before you can criticize it, Jim. Don't criticize Battlestar Galactica.
I watched Battlestar Galactica. I watched every episode, 1978, 1979.
Were you guys surprised that they didn't flank Sabine with a couple of Clone Wars or Rebels era Mandos? Because these characters were brand new, as far as I can tell.
Sabine, you mean?
I'm sorry,
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan. Thank you, Bo-Katan. So where was a Sabine? Where was, unless they have other ideas? But I mean, why not? If you're going to dip into the canon and pull out a Bo-Katan, why not pull out? Who was the guy that was always hanging around her? Instead, we got Axe Woves.
Well, that's just fine. She said she was the last, the lone survivor of her clan, and you're under the impression that many Mandalorian soldiers fell during the Purge, and that's also when the Empire took what little remaining non-hostile parts of Mandalore and made them hostile somehow. They apparently the notion around the galaxy, at least the Mandalorian himself believes, that the planet is no longer habitable, right? Because of some sort of tricky stuff the Empire did.
Probably a virus.
Yeah, well, a virus,
like
possibly
the blue shadow virus.
Or it could be anything. I mean, they could have just completely destroyed the atmosphere with technology. Well, you never know.
Thank you, Clark, for the super chat, by the way. Very, very much appreciated.
Let me ask you guys this: at the end of Rebels, and I think my wife is watching tonight, so she's just getting spoiled all over the place, but that's fine.
But she's watching us tonight, or watching Mandalorian?
Well, because she supports me. She hasn't got that place in her life where she's like, "Oh, Steve's on the YouTube with some freaks talking Star Wars." Who cares? But
she's not at that point yet. Give her another 6 months.
That's right. But at the end of Rebels, when is that final scene where you see Sabine and Ahsoka get back together? Is that around this same time?
No.
Or is that
that's probably a decade before what goes down here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well now wait a minute. How far after Return of the Jedi are we?
About 3 years.
4 or 5 years tops.
Okay, so the final scene in Rebels where they move forward in time and Heiress got her little boy.
Right.
Is that not around the same time, or is that right after Jedi?
You have to assume that happens right after Jedi.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
Good point, Steve. That's a great point.
So, but Sabine, there's a good chance she could be with Ahsoka.
Yes.
or she may not be. But there is obviously several clans who survived. Now, Bo-Katan is Clan Kryze or Clan
Kryze.
So, but she is also the rightful. I guess she is the heiress. She is the rightful ruler. But she's going to get that Darksaber back in hand.
Right.
That and here's the thing: there are words that were spoken and names that were mentioned that I don't think I fully expected to hear spoken or mentioned. The word Darksaber was said out loud.
Yep. Right.
Which is just amazing in live action. There's something about it being said in live action and not on a cartoon that's just kind of amazing. But even though we've seen it, and then for her to just come right out and say, "You need to find Ahsoka Tano," it was like, oh, okay, so we're just going to go there now. The only way I could have been more gobsmacked if she would have just said, "Yeah, Luke Skywalker is on this planet right now. You can go see."
You're absolutely right. Like, it's one thing reading that rumors that this stuff is going to happen. It's another thing when you actually hear it. And
Yep.
the whole family tonight in my house, when she said Ahsoka Tano, we all went, looked at each other.
Yeah.
And of course, all of us know who she is, which is another testament to that character.
But it's like, what have we gotten so far in this show? There's an order of sorcerers, a race of sorcerers called Jedi. You must find them. And so he's going around, I need to find more people like me who can lead me there. Do you know anyone that looks like me? Well, there's someone on Tatooine, and you go, and it's like, okay, we know that Boba Fett may be, and then it's not, it's Cobb Vanth, and that's fine. But it's like, there's never a name spoken. It's like, you may want to look here. Maybe there's somewhere to help you on your quest here. And she's just like, go to this place and ask for Ahsoka Tano. She'll tell you everything you need to know. And it's like, oh, all right. So she just made it easy for him. Bo-Katan doesn't play. So I thought that was just kind of amazing and fun to see. But then also, guys, there was so many questions that I know people have had since last season that just started to get answered in this episode just through some really well-placed and quick-spoken dialogue about cults and ways, everything else.
Well, I thought we could kind of break some of this down a little bit because it's all done in that bit of exposition. By the way, thank you, Ethan, very much. It's very kind for the super chat. Great to see so many people watching the show live tonight. Appreciate that very much. Breaking down some of the things that we hear Bo-Katan say. So now we know that Din Djarin is a child of the Watch. And I'm sure she's obviously referring to Death Watch. We know that he was rescued.
Is she obviously referring to Death Watch?
Oh, I think she is, because if you go back to season 1, they're wearing Death Watch armor. When you see them, they've got the Death Watch insignia.
I know they do, but they also are wearing their helmets. Death Watch was pretty loosey-goosey with keeping those helmets
But they
on.
were in battle.
Pre Vizsla popped that lid with no problem.
No problemo.
But wait a minute. Wait. But when we see them, they're in battle.
No, I'm talking about in the Clone Wars. In the history of the Clone Wars, the Death Watch were always loosey-goosey about keeping the helmet on. They never had a rule about keeping the helmet on.
Yeah.
Well, but she
always took
says
his
that
helmet
it's
off.
a cult that broke away to establish the ancient ways. So perhaps after, perhaps this extremist wing of, by the way, thank you, MW77. This could Thrawn pop up? Not likely. I don't think this season. I don't see him. I see that them holding that for maybe another series, actually. But thanks for the question and the super chat.
I'm thrawned out at this point. I am
thrawned
absolutely Grand Admiral thrawned out.
Boy, we didn't.
I can't tell you how many times is this guy going to show up. He's in a book. He's in a comic. He's in Rebels. I liked him best when he was
look at Steve. He can't believe this. Steve, Steve is gobsmacked.
I just can't believe he's saying it out loud. Show at rebelforceradio.com.
I'm just tired of Thrawn. And who determined that that's the only character Timothy Zahn can write now? I mean, the guy can write all kind of good Star Wars characters. Nope, just Thrawn. That's it for you, Zahn. So I don't get it. I'm burnt on Grand Admiral freaking Thrawn.
Well,
put him to bed.
Wait a minute. I think we can have the ultimate Jimmy Mac experience if Grand Admiral Thrawn enters into the Mandalorian via the world between worlds. We're going to absolutely see a nuclear explosion over top of Chicago.
Meanwhile, and I wish I had a battle droid to offer you right now, Jim, because I can do better than that too.
You sure can. Well, we'll wait and see how it all plays out. I try to remain open-minded, but I don't want The Mandalorian to become a follow-up series to Rebels. I just don't want that to happen. I think some animated series should remain animated series and just keep it right there instead of now trying to shoehorn every loose end into The Mandalorian. I think that's gonna wear down the story a little bit.
So you weren't. I mean, okay. So we got Bo-Katan, we got Boba Fett. Thank you, Ryloth Leku.
Oh, by the way, there's a lot of rumors out there about a Boba Fett series coming to Disney Plus, and I can say I have independently verified that this is the truth and it's actually going to happen. And I heard that from somebody who's actually working on the production itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bombshell.
Boba Fett is definitely. Believe the rumors when you read them because they are true.
Can I just say the things that I get to be around when you guys just open up are amazing? Like Jimmy Mac right now is calling and confirming Boba Fett show. It was with me when Jimmy Mac admitted he wasn't a Star Wars fan before he was the Deep fan.
That's true. Now, the summer of '77, I did not see Star Wars. The movie that was my favorite that summer was The Deep. And that's simply for the fact that I didn't see Star Wars. But I was really interested in the moray eels.
Steve is like, he's like I said he was like RFR's pastor. I think he's more like the Boar Gullet. He brings out the truth. That's right. He knows the truth.
We're always sitting in his confessional.
That's for sure. The truth. Okay, so Child of the Watch, not necessarily Death Watch. I think it is, or certainly an offshoot. I found a bunch of stuff online about Costco Reeves being a part of the Night Owls, that offshoot of Mandalorian. And there was a split apparently there. Read a book. I'm sure it's in there. Do the reading. You'll find out. So that they're a cult that broke away to establish the ancient ways, which sounds very Death Watchy. Now, what's Bo-Katan and her two fellow Mandalorians doing? They're seizing weapons to try and on this black market of Trask, so that they can. They're seizing these weapons so that they can go and retake the planet Mandalore. But as we said earlier, there's rumors, which is considered fact by many, that the planet is inhospitable, and so they're keeping the Mandalorians away from away from their homeworld. And the thing that really struck me in this whole exchange was that Din Djarin wanted nothing to do with this type of Mandalorian, and it wasn't clear to me if he knew who he was dealing with, if it was just like two different opposing religious beliefs kind of coming into conflict with each other. But he clearly thinks the way is the way and there is no other way.
I don't think he was aware of the fact that there were any other Mandalorians out there. I think he's been pretty sheltered for the most part, despite being a bounty hunter who travels the galaxy. It is a big galaxy, and you have to imagine that it would be hard to keep up on the events happening in all of these different systems all across the universe. Heck, we all live here on the planet Earth, and we can't even keep track of what happens in our own neighborhood, for crying out loud, for the most part. So I get that. I get how someone can be in the dark about things, like Rey being in the dark about who Luke Skywalker was, or whether or not he was actually even more than a legend. I can roll with that. It's a big galaxy, Yeah, but when each of these planets are big places.
But when you say that he's unaware of other Mandalorians, I mean, but that's part of his quest. He's looking for other Mandalorians, so he must know that they're out there.
Yeah, but I think he believes that there's one type of Mandalorian, and that's the type of Mandalorian like the one he was raised as.
Yes.
And you see that going on in our little planet as well. There's a bigger world out there sometimes, and we don't expect it when it reveals itself to us on occasion.
She calls it a religious cult, or a
Yep.
cult of religious zealots.
Yep.
And so the word cult gets thrown in there, and immediately that has certain connotations. That obviously the actual Mandalorians are going to look at this and see. She realizes immediately what's going on. And Jason, I'm with you. I feel like he's just been sheltered to the point, and this is how he's been raised. So he has no idea that there's a race of people out there doing this. Maybe he heard of the race, but he may think that they're completely wiped out. If you remember, and again, you've got to go back to the stuff he was told, and we picked up through dialogue in the first season. They're very few and far between because the Empire almost wiped them out and all this other stuff, and that's why they're hiding in these coverts and that sort of thing. And so he obviously thinks that if there are any Mandalorians out there, and we saw it with Cobb Vanth when he took off his helmet, the Mandalorian was like, "What are you doing?" And here, again, he's like, and I love, he goes to that very next question, "Where'd you get that armor?" He's like, "You obviously don't belong in this." And he has no clue that there is another way. Mm-hmm. And I love that Bo understood where he was coming from so much so that she uses that line, "This is the way," and just kind of sarcastically and cuttingly tells him, like, this is what really matters. This is what's really going on here.
Well, it's clear that she has more use for Din, for the Mandalorian, than he has for her. So she's looking at him as a brother. At one point, she calls him a brother, even though he is not a blood Mandalorian, unless she knows something we don't know, which also could be something we find out about the Mandalorian. I do like that the Frog Lady and the Frog Gentleman join ranks with Queel and Pelly and other Baby Yoda sitters out there. Yeah. It's to put that kind of trust, as you see, the Mandalorian is collecting all of these, these people that he can come back to and Cara Dune, of course. I think she babysat him. Any other Baby Yoda sitters out there?
The woman at the bar with the flag and a spatchka. Remember, he gave her some credits to watch after the kid.
Oh my God, the barmaid! Yeah, what, he knew her for 3 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, and then she let him slide right out the door with a bowl of bone broth.
The children on that planet got to go play with him and everything.
Yeah.
And that was when we found out that the Mandalorian was kind of like the bandit from Smoking the Bandit. He only takes that helmet off for 2 things. But we won't mention them here because
I love it.
Breaker 19.
Oh, thank you, Drop D Tuned 1 for the super chat. That's very very kind of you.
That's guitar terminology right there, my friend.
Oh, one of those alternate tunings.
He's a metalhead.
All right. So I wrote down. I went through the and pulled the subtitles. Anybody know anything about the forest planet of Chorus?
No.
They mention Caladan. She mentions Caladan and the forest planet of Chorus. The only clue, Corvus, Corvus. The only clue I have is my wife, who's a biologist, zoologist, says that is the scientific name for crows. And we know Dave Filoni likes his birds. And isn't there like a crow-like, owl-like thing that follows Ahsoka around?
Yeah.
So the fact that she's hiding out on a forest planet, Corvus, perhaps maybe there's some sort of crow connection there. Who knows?
And in the video game Star Wars Battlefront 2, there's a ship, the Corvus, and that is Iden Versio's ship. So I'm not a big. I actually just read this online.
Yeah,
and just a little factoid I thought I'd share because I'm not a big Battlefront 2 guy, but I did watch the cutscene, so I think I know who we're talking about here. And so that ship may come into play somehow as well as with the planet itself. So
Paul McDonald sent us a super chat. He wants to know if Disney should do a deep spin-off series.
Peter Benchley's The Deep.
Would that please you?
Well, they brought Nick Nolte in to do the voice of Queel, So maybe they can convince him to get back into the wetsuit and go underwater for a few. I don't know. That would be very interesting.
Hey, Greg Allison here on the chat brings up an interesting thought. Could this be, introducing Mandalorians into the series where the helmet is not as big of a deal? Could that be a way for Pedro Pascal to get his I
think so.
Off-camera wish to be able to
I think
have the helmet off more? Yeah,
I think so. It's like that period in time when the young Amish get to leave the township or wherever they're from.
The wilding, or what do they call that?
They leave their community and they get to go, try life. And it's in all of its various flavors without the restriction of the Amish community. And usually, in most cases, they come back. For the most part, the majority of them embrace the Amish lifestyle after that. But they give you that time. I forget what it's called, but it's a time when they all go out and usually get hammered. And I
saw that movie. It was called Kingpin. It was amazing. Bill Murray.
Right. I forget what that period is called when they get to break
I think they
free.
did a reality. In all seriousness, I think they did a reality series about that at one point.
The Amish reality series.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Which is
Rumspringa is what it's called. Yeah. So I think there's a Mandalorian Rumspringa. There'll be a Mandalorian Rumspringa for Den, where he actually starts running with the Bo-Katan's gang, and he takes the helmet off a little and lets his face breathe a little bit. But he'll go back to the armorer and back to wearing the helmet exclusively on his head, just like the Amish kids during Rumspringa.
Is Rumspringa, that's a rap song, right? All I want to do, rum a zoom, 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 and a boom, boom. Just spring your rump.
Rumspringa! Yeah, I think we're onto something here. Okay. And also, I think we can take this on the road, Steve.
All right.
Once concert venues open back up, it's going to be you and me,
nice.
Dipping and hopping our way across the continental USA. Rumspringa!
We just knew when they cast Moff Gideon, we just knew that this was going to be an evil dude.
Yes.
But in this week's episode, I think we realized just how evil this guy is. How scared they are. And it was a real kick, too, to see the Imperial officers in their classic, iconic original trilogy uniforms and the way that the interior of the ship looked. And it was just, you had all the feels. But when Bo-Katan says to the captain, she says, "I'll let you live." And he says, he won't. And we know this because Gideon tells the captain to take the ship down in order to get rid of the pirates. So, kamikaze, all for the good of the Empire. And, of course, there's the long live the Empire. I think that's the first time we've actually heard that on the series, right? Have we heard that before?
I don't recall. I think maybe
a lot of mantras in this show.
Did Werner Herzog say it to Moff Gideon when he was conversing with him via hologram? I can't remember in season 1.
Yeah,
but I do have something I want to say about that Imperial captain.
Yes.
Okay, he's played by an actor named Titus Welliver. Mm-hmm. There's something felt familiar about him, and I looked at his IMDb and nothing jumped out at me. But what did jump out at me is that this is the first Imperial officer we've ever seen with a suntan. I mean, not even on Scarif do these guys have tans. They're pasty and they look like they've never seen sunlight. I mean, for crying out loud, this Imperial captain was like the George Hamilton of Star Wars.
Well, they're normally played by Brits. And if we've hung out with Brits, we know one of my funniest memories was running around in Orlando with Paul and Athena Bateman. And after a couple hours of Orlando heat, you just looked, and Paul and Athena were just puddles with eyeballs, just kind of sloshing around on the sidewalk. These people, they don't tan. But oh wow, I just got a special delivery of a Snickers bar. There you go. Thank you. Thanks, buddy. Wow.
I also like with that Imperial captain how I think it might have been lost on some people how he committed suicide there in the name of the Empire. He actually had a tooth, and this is something that goes on in the James Bond movie Dr. No, where the tooth is filled with cyanide. But in this case, the Imperial captain had something in there that gave him a little shocker, and then he was done. And
he had what they do is they use fingernail clippings from the Emperor, and they put it in a capsule.
Oh, and he just bites it. It sparks up. Remember, like how they used to say that there were those mint lifesavers that came out in the 90s with Redsin, and they say if you bite down on it hard enough in the dark, it'll spark. Yeah. And I tried over and over again, much to my dentist's dismay, but they don't spark. No. That's an urban legend.
No, the lights, the peppermint ones will. They will.
They really will.
Mm-hmm.
I have a memory of Al Gore doing that on the David Letterman show back in the 90s. With a pair of workers' glasses, and they turned all the lights out, and he and Letterman were hitting those mints they were hitting them with a hammer on his desk. And and then Letterman said, well, let's try it with a Twinkie and see if a Twinkie will actually spark. Boy, that's a tangent. But that was cool. I loved seeing the Star Wars version of the poison cyanide tooth. But the other thing that I just got to throw it out there, as much of a thrill it is for us to see these, well, maybe not Jimmy Mack, but for a lot of fans, it's exciting to see these animated characters come into the live action world.
No, I don't dislike it. I thought Bo-Katan was fantastic in this. I don't mind seeing the characters cross over as much as I mind their stories getting continued and bogging down the Mandalorian stories. You know, if you're going to bring the characters in and give them something fresh, like with Bo-Katan, last we saw her, she was in possession of the Darksaber, and her clan was the ruling house of Mandalore. We don't know what happened during the Imperial Purge, how she actually lost the saber to Moff Gideon. But it looks like that is the gist of her story now, and she's going to go after it. The whole idea of hunting down Ezra and Grand Admiral Thrawn and all this stuff, to bring all that into it will really bog it down a lot. But I think it's been very effective with the way they brought in Bo-Katan into the series like they did. And I think it's been effective the way they've teased us with Boba Fett so far. Yeah. Oh, speaking of Boba Fett, can we show everyone that poster? Oh, yeah. That blurry poster we got. You're going to see something cool. We're going to see our first official image of Ahsoka here. I don't think this is any kind of spoiler. Oh, I see, Jason, you zoomed in on it. But this is from our listener, David, who snapped this on Amazon Fire TV. He snapped this blurry picture for us. And he says it's under the Alexa anniversary birthday. And I did not actually take the time to go and hunt it down myself. I actually like the blurriness of the photo, so we can kind of, we see enough, though. What we see here is Ahsoka Tano, and she's fully cloaked in off-white robe, and she's holding what looks like a giant tuning fork.
Yeah, she's Ahsoka the White.
And she's Ahsoka the White.
Which we saw her wearing this exact outfit in Rebels.
At the end of Rebels, yeah. And so there she is with Baby Yoda. So we know that Baby Yoda will eventually get delivered to Ahsoka. It looks like she's on a desert planet, not the forest planet of Kovar or wherever they said that she's going.
Corvus.
And Corvus, yeah. You also see in the poster Moff Gideon, Cara Dune, the Mandalorian, and over the Mandalorian's shoulder, I don't think that's Cobb Vanth. I think that's Boba Fett, fully armored Boba Fett. What's going to happen? Is Boba Fett going to become an ally of the Mandalorians? Is Boba Fett going to assist the Mandalorian in delivering Baby Yoda to Ahsoka? I don't know. But I think it's pretty thrilling. We're actually sort of fuzzy seeing Ahsoka in the Mandalorian for the first time.
Well, it's unmistakable, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's her, all right.
Yeah.
That's her, all right.
Well,
I wish David had a little more steady hand with his smartphone as he was taking pictures of the Amazon Fire TV. We don't have Amazon Fire in my house, so I can't actually research this myself. If someone in the chat wants to go and take a more clear shot of it, if you have Amazon Fire hooked up, you'll find it in, where did he say we'd find that? In the Alexa anniversary birthday. So maybe it's still there. I don't know, but somebody go find it for us and send me a clear picture. Show at rebelforceradio.com, and we'll put it up on the screen for everyone to see.
Guys, I've done a little bit of research here.
What you got? It's fake.
Well, first of all, in the chat, Jason, I've sent you a picture of Ahsoka from that season finale. It's a screenshot of the season finale, and then I just Googled Mandalorian poster Ahsoka. And this says a new fan poster for The Mandalorian. It's a season 2 fan-made poster.
Oh, so this guy's pulling my leg. Well, he says he saw it on Amazon Fire TV.
He may have. He may have. The people who run those things a lot of times will just pull stuff from the web as images to throw up there.
Really?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. And I didn't mean to tease anyone. Link. I was a little skeptical of it myself. I'll
put a link in the chat here to that as well, to kind of a high-res picture of that poster as well. In our Skype chat.
All right. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here, folks.
So
everyone go about your business.
Well, it leads me to a little bit of speculation because, here we are rolling into the 4th episode of season 2 next week, chapter 12. And we've had the name dropped. We know that he's kind of limping along, that, he's got the Mon Calamari upgrades of netting, and basically his ship now looks like the inside of a seafood restaurant circa 1988. And so he's, but he may be headed straight to Corvus. Will he drop off Baby Yoda with Ahsoka, leave Baby Yoda behind? Are we going to have to say goodbye to Baby Yoda, and now the center or the thrust of this show shifts back to him now trying to figure out what's the truth about this Mandalorian stuff? Is what takes him back to Navarro, will it be to go talk to the armor and be like, look, you've told me a lie. There are real Mandalorians out there. What's the deal? Will we see that kind of stuff? Are we going to have a shift in story now?
And will he ever get his second order of Cheddar Bay biscuits delivered?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, there's a lot of food talk.
I was told it was endless shrimp here tonight.
Now, the thing that was in Yoda's soup, or his whatever it was, porridge or chowder, that is a baby version of the Mama Core, right? Because then you see it on the Razor Crest at the end, trying to get his revenge. Because it has the same mouth.
I thought that was a different critter. Well, it might have been a baby version of that thing, but I thought the thing on the Razor Crest was a different critter than what was actually in the soup. I thought it was just the same thing, just a different one.
Oh, yeah, it's a different one, but the same species, right? Yeah.
And it's the same thing as the big old thing that ate him?
Yes. If you look at them, they have the same mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, they get big.
Yeah. They're the little Mama Core. Big Mama Core. By the way, thank you, Matt, from Australia, for the super chat and the well wishes. Thank you, and thanks for... you're in the future. That's right. You're like almost like a half a day into the future. Yeah. Great to have you here. We're going to open up the phone lines, by the way. Number to call is 708-866-1737. That's 708-866-1RFR. And we will begin to take your calls here in just a moment. Jim, while I do that, why don't you entertain the folks?
Oh, yeah, sure. There's so much to entertain with after I pulled out that fake Amazon poster. My confidence is blown now in the rest of my commentary. I will say that for as quickly as the phrase dank ferric has emerged, it's also began to annoy me a lot too. Dank ferric. He said it last episode, and then it was said like 2 or 3 times this episode. So all the nerds are going to be jumping all over that. You're going to be hearing dank ferric. Oh, I missed my elevator. Dank ferric. What's the matter with you? Where I come from, dank it means something entirely different. And usually we don't want to talk about it. So, I don't know. I thought this episode was fantastic. Again, would love to get 3 3/4 inch action figures of some of these new characters. Casca Reeves, Axe Wolves, Bo-Katan. I mean, a Mandalorian version of Bo-Katan.
Can we talk a little bit about the action figure situation? Is this a deal, do you think, where Hasbro just is not in the know until we're in the know, or are they just slow to pull the trigger on these things?
Well, I don't know, because it sure seems like Funko is able to produce stuff at a much quicker rate than Hasbro does. Hasbro always needs a year to a year and a half to create, manufacture, and market, distribute a 3 3/4 inch action figure. They usually need 12 to 18 months. But Funko somehow manages to get stuff out really quickly based on IPs and things like their licensees and stuff. So I don't know why.
Coming soon to HasLab, the Mon Calamari Razor Crest upgrade. Like, if they'd have just held on one more week, they could have gotten another level for their whole campaign. You know,
it's the latest. What do they call it when they unlock them?
The next tier, the next unlock tier or whatever.
We're gonna unlock the tier. This one is gonna be exclusive 90s seafood restaurant interior.
That's right. 30,000 backers will get you this.
Right, and you also get 30,000 very disappointed backers.
That's right.
All right, I think we have our first caller here. Let's see if this is working tonight. We've got Alex wanting to talk about the Heiress. Hello, Alex.
Alex.
Can you hear us,
Hello,
Alex?
Guys, is it just me, or is Alex not able to be heard?
I don't think we can hear
Alex.
Alex.
I don't think we can hear him. Don't think we can hear him. Oh, all right. Well, let's
press one of the buttons.
Yeah.
There's a button.
Are you
Alex?
Was that you, Steve? Were you doing that?
Oh, there's the poster art. I'm watching YouTube and our live, so I might be minutes behind, but I'm actually seeing that poster art more clearly now, and sure looks good.
Minutes.
We're fast forward and get caught up here. It's hard to watch. Glad
you're enjoying this. Glad you're enjoying the show, Jim. That's great.
Well, it was great until we tried to start taking calls, and Alex ditched us.
Is Alex real?
Alex left us at the altar. We're here, spurned, but still planning on going to the reception.
All right, just give us a second.
Alex is leaving me as empty as a Walmart Star Wars section.
We did try to do something different technically with our callers this week, so maybe we're having a problem with that. We apologize to everyone who wanted to call in. But there's a lot of great things to be said about this episode. And where do we go from here? Do we think next week we're going to actually come in contact with Ahsoka Tano? I don't know. I don't think so. Carl Weathers is directing next week's episode. So I think we're going to have a pit stop at Navarro and reunite with Grief Karga and Cara Dune. I don't think we're going to just get right to Ahsoka. Maybe not next week, maybe the following week. What I'd be looking for is which episode this season is Dave Filoni directing, because I would bet the house on it that would be the episode in which you'd see Ahsoka Tano make her Mandalorian debut. And so I think that might be episode 5. He directed episode 5 last season. So maybe he's directing.
Let's see if we've got Chris. Chris from Florida. Hello, Chris.
I don't think so. So,
Jim, according to IMDb, you called it. Dave Filoni is directing episode 5, but now that's IMDb. That could be wrong. I know last year they had like the directors all listed out before we ever got into the season. And
let's take a look and do some digging here and see if we can find a list of directors for season 2 of The Mandalorian. And maybe we can even plot out the whole season if we know which directors are directing which episodes. Let's take a look here. There's 8 episodes in season 2, right? And so we're nearing the halfway mark.
Yeah, episode 5 is Dave Filoni's directing, and it's got he and Jon Favreau credited as the writers here.
That has to be the Ahsoka Tano Mandalorian debut episode. I will eat a whole wooden box full of grapes as a bet if that didn't happen. But I think it is going to happen. And speaking of eating, I've been wondering, why is Baby Yoda so hungry all the time? I mean, he's hungry right after he eats something. I think he's going through a little bit. He's going to go through this metamorphosis, this growth spurt. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about a Yoda species. Baby Yoda's 50 years old. What if Baby Yoda or Yoda's species completely forgoes things like adolescence, teenage years, and moves right from like infancy into young adulthood? What if he just all of a sudden one morning wakes up and he's old like Yoda?
Well, I've been thinking, and I've asked this question on my show as well. He's 50 years old. I know that they age differently, but that should not preclude him from being able to communicate and talk. And it's one thing to say that the body ages a certain way, but 50 years is still 50 years. Mm-hmm. And so if you say that a 50-year-old person from Yoda's species is like a toddler, is like a baby, then the fact that Yoda's been around for almost 900 years doesn't really mean a lot, because that means that life cycle, though it's a long time, is equivalent to a human being around for really even a shorter amount of time, if you start kind of working the math out to life expectancy and that sort of thing. And so I'm really just kind of like, this kid needs to show more understanding, more knowledge that he knows what's going on, or maybe he's just playing everybody for a fool anyway, and when he does get around Ahsoka, he'll be like, all right, I'm where I belong, and will show a little bit more awareness and that sort of thing. I'm okay with him being a toddler. I'm okay with him being weakened when he uses the Force and that sort of thing, like we saw with the Mudhorn. It's the cognitive abilities that they're kind of like, I'm just trying to figure out that situation.
Well, I just think it'd be interesting, because maybe it would explain a little bit about Yoda and his species, and maybe their connection to the Force and their compassion, because maybe he's mentally developed, but still in an infant's body. So he doesn't have the physical capability to speak yet, even though he can understand words. I think Baby Yoda, it sure seems like he understands a lot about what's happening around him. And then other times he acts absolutely impulsively, like when one of these is within reach, one of these eggs.
All right,
that looks
guys,
good.
sorry to interrupt here. We're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way so we can get our callers in. So just bear with us a moment.
Oh, we're going to get the beep, boop, bop, boop, beep,
we're going to do the
beeps.
beep, bop, boop.
Beep, bop, boop, bop, beep, bop, beep. All right. This is always very interesting. It's a crapshoot, because the system often rejects us when we try to punch in our
Thank you for
password.
calling Call-In Studios host and call screener line. Please enter. That was an invalid show number. Please re-enter your show number, followed by the pound. That was an invalid show number. Please re-enter your show number, followed by the pound key. That was an invalid show number.
All right, that's enough. We're not
Please
taking
re-enter
calls
your
this
show
week. I'm
number,
sorry,
followed
guys.
by
We
the
can't
pound
take calls
key.
this week, but it ain't going to happen. So, we are at the... we can't do anything about this technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we apologize, and we'll try to take calls again next week.
If you have a question and you're in the chat, go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll get it up on the screen. Just start your comment with like double question marks, and that way we'll know. because they come by pretty fast and furious. So we'll get those up there. So if you're on the on hold, yeah, we're just not able to take calls tonight.
Oh, here's one that Darth Comrade says. Did you guys notice how Bo-Katan looked at Baby Yoda knowingly, almost as if she recognized him? I didn't pick that up, but
no,
maybe.
I didn't see that.
I didn't see that either.
I think there are a lot of looks you could read into. Obviously, she's aware of Yoda, having been around, as long as she has.
Yeah, right. She would she know of Yoda? Was Yoda ever?
Oh, yeah,
it's
she
hard
would.
to say.
I mean,
the celebrity status of these Jedi? That's the hard thing to figure out. How well known were they? Is like public figures.
You would think the Grand Master of the Jedi, especially with all the dealings that Obi-Wan especially had with Mandalore and everything else, there's a good chance that she at least knew what he looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Neil is asking, what are the odds of Sabine showing up in one of the next episodes? I think it's probably 50-50, maybe even 60-40, pointing to a Sabine showing up. With Dave running the show, I think she'll at least come up. I
would love to see Tia Sircar play her too, if anyone's going to do it.
Oh,
Gary asks, I wonder if they really smell like fish sticks. Now, I can't speak for Swank or Big Steve, but I do a little bit. Maybe he's talking about the Moncal and the Quarren. I'll just move on.
That's uncomfortable.
Chris is asking, do you guys think that we'll see a face-off between Boba and Mando? Absolutely. Whether they end up pals at the end of it or if they are enemies, I think either way. I mean, we got to see Mando and Cara Dune fight. We got to see Greef Karga and Mando go at it a little bit. So Mando seems to fight with everybody at some point.
Well, I think that's a season 3 thing. If you guys remember the way, and I know it's a Favreau show, but Filoni has a lot of pull and a lot of say. He and Favreau or their heads are together on a lot of this. Remember when we first had any hint that Darth Maul was still alive, was like middle of season 3 or some such of the Clone Wars, and it wasn't until late season 4 when we got, is that you, brother? Is that you, brother? So Filoni will drag some stuff out.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we have to wait until season 3 to see that come to fruition. But I'd love to see it start with Slave One versus Razor Crest and go down to land from there.
No, I think I know that you mentioned Dave Filoni liking to drag stuff out, but I believe that this show is completely Favreau's baby, and he calls all the shots as to when things happen and how they happen. He writes all the episodes. He produces. He's starting to direct episodes now, and I think he's very hands-on on the set, as is Dave Filoni. But I don't think that big picture things like that really come up. Maybe they do. Maybe they bounce things. I think because I heard him say that Favreau they'll be bouncing ideas off of each other, and then like the next day Favreau will send him a new script.
Yeah.
It's like
I think
it
all
works
you have
really
to do,
fast.
I think all you have to do is watch in the first. I think it's the first season of the Chef Show. Maybe it's in the second season.
Yeah.
Where on Netflix, where Favreau goes up to Lucasfilm and to the ranch, the Skywalker Ranch, and gets in the kitchen with Filoni, and like all the stuff, like he just keeps deferring to Filoni on Filoni's knowledge. So what I'm saying is Favreau understands directing, he understands storytelling, but because Filoni understands Star Wars and Star Wars storytelling, and there's a way that Filoni's done it, I wouldn't surprise Filoni. Let's just show him and then get him. We'll show him back and bring him back in season 3. I can just see that happening.
Maybe. I think we're going to see the Boba Fett thing pay off this season. I really do.
Yeah. Let's see here. Clark is asking, is the galaxy so big that Ahsoka wouldn't have... Whoops, sorry, lost it. Is the galaxy so big that Ahsoka wouldn't have any connection to Luke Skywalker? I suppose since she doesn't identify as a Jedi, she wouldn't join Luke's order. I think that's the loophole here. I think her not considering herself a Jedi, she says, I'm no Jedi. She's not going to run around and try to find a Luke Skywalker if she's even aware of Luke Skywalker. She very well may not be. I mean, who knows? Maybe she has cut herself off from the Force like we see Luke do in Episode 8. We don't know, we don't know that we're going to find necessarily this Ahsoka. Since this is now we know this is a fan-made poster, that may not be the Ahsoka that they find. Eric from
Chris
Phoenix.
in the chat.
Go ahead.
This one caught my eye. Chris in the chat. He wants to see a Vader Disney Plus show, showing Vader between Episode 3 and Rogue One. And you know what I say to that? Hell yeah!
Of course,
got to bring that one. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Why hasn't that happened already? That would be the first show I would have done.
Yeah.
But Favreau brought the good idea to Lucasfilm.
Well,
the Mandalorian just fell into their laps. It really did.
Yeah.
It really did. So they have to follow it up with something cool and kick ass. Let's see what they do.
Yeah, there are no sacred cows anymore. Now that you have Yoda's species being examined, being explored, I always thought that was perhaps the most sacred of all the mysteries of Star Wars. And now that they're peeling the curtain back on that, why not do a Vader series? I mean, we saw him in the buff in Rogue One, in the back to tank. I mean, is most vulnerable. So, peel it back. I'm all for it. As far as any of these characters being kind of off limits, I don't think anything is really off limits anymore. Not saying that's bad. I just think that's the new reality.
Would you like to see a Vader show, Big Steve?
Probably, maybe. What if we have it though? We need Vader in all of his glory. We don't need Vader neutered by the Emperor. We don't need Vader doing the stuff he does in the comics where he's constantly doubting himself. And the Emperor's like, "I will now shock the piss out of you to teach you." That's it.
That's so true. True. That is the comic book Vader.
We need a Vader who has truly buried everything deep down, and Anakin Skywalker is dead as a doornail. And that means he's routing rebels out. That means he's laying waste to cities. That means that if he finds a Jedi, he's not toying around with them. Look, loved rebels, but I don't want to see Inquisitors doing Vader's dirty work. I want to see Vader doing it if we have to. And so that's what has to be in a Vader series. None of this. I'm a little torn. I'm a torn man in a suit. I want it to be, I want those clever Vader one-liners. I have you now. Don't choke on your aspirations. I want those kinds of things from Vader, so that when we actually get to Return of the Jedi, and he's standing there on that catwalk with Luke before he goes up to the Emperor, and you see him walk over after he sends Luke away. He walks over to the handrail and just leans on it. You can feel the weight of Anakin bubbling back up to the surface. When we have all this mess, I don't mean to go off this way because I know there are people who love it, and that's fine. When you have all this mess in the comics where, we're searching for Padme, is she still alive? Can I bring her back? And all this other junk that goes on, you are really chipping away at the fact that Anakin Skywalker is dead. The good man who was your father ceased to be. And as much as we give Obi-Wan crap for being a liar, when he says the truth depends on his point of view, he really means that Vader killed Anakin Skywalker, so that when he's on that Death Star, there's not a trace of the boy he trained standing in front of him. He is more evil. He's twisted and evil. He's more machine than man. All of that stuff, and that's why he's able to strike Obi-Wan down in cold blood without any remorse whatsoever. If we have this torn up Vader all the time, then we're not going to.
Right.
I don't want that show.
Right. No, absolutely. I prefer the Vader who is completely committed to the dark side, completely committed to Darth Vader, and who really does kill Anakin Skywalker. There is no remorse. He doesn't sit in his meditation chamber pining for Padme anymore. Anakin Skywalker can't live with himself for being under the impression that he killed Padme. So that's why Vader has to kill Anakin. And that's the only way Vader can exist.
Guys, this
is fully, completely purging himself of his former life.
This is a very clever point that Jeff points out. He says, Ahsoka should do to Din what Yoda did to Luke. Luke wasn't looking for a little green guy and missed Yoda. Din is looking for a little green guy and could miss Ahsoka. She should totally mess with him. That is interesting. They're kind of spinning that. You assume that Din is going to be Din is associating Jedi with these little green sorcerers, and that's not what he's going to find. He's going to find it to Gruten. So I thought that was great. Good one. Good one.
That is a good point.
Let's see. So who? Oh, John. Right. So who's the heiress? Bo-Katan, right? But what does that mean for the upcoming story, Battle for Mandalore Season 3? Interesting. So John speculating that Season 3 is going to be where this is all leading, where you have some big epic battle to reclaim Mandalore. That seems very logical.
Well,
so
that
is
heiress, interesting. Will the showdown be Bo-Katan and Moff Gideon? Will it be Din Djarin and Moff Gideon? Will it, there's got to be a showdown for that saber, and it's just it is interesting. If she's here, how much is she here? Look, I'm going to be honest. I got kind of tired of the Mandalorian, expose throughout the latter part of Rebels and some of the stuff in Clone Wars. I'm just like, oh, can we stop digging through family trees and stuff? But the minute she's like, well, you're from this cult, and now it's like, oh, so there's different cultures at war here. There's different ideas flowing here. We're going to see the tension that comes from all this, but we know that, is she right? Is she wrong? Is he right? Is what, because we went through the first season, this is the way. That became one of those geek battle cries out of season 1. Like everyone who thinks they're cool and saying this is the way, we're saying this is the way. And so when she turns that around on him at the end of this episode, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is BA. Yes, this is the way. And so now I'm like, I kind of want him to team up with them. I want him to take that, show his face, take the helmet off, all that good stuff. But at the same time, I feel like there's like I said earlier, I think there's a journey he's got to go on now, but I don't want him to end up with the dark saber at the end. I don't think that may be where they're building to, that may be his hero's journey. Is to come from obscurity to and a bounty hunter and all to be like the leader of the Mandalorians. But I'm interested to see where that final showdown with Gideon takes place, and I hope it's as epic as everything has been. I trust that it will be, but it's a fun journey to get there for sure.
Well, what is she going to fight him with? What do you fight a dark saber with? You need another saber of some sort,
Well, right?
Where's that going to come from?
I don't know. If there were an opposite of a dark saber, what would you call it?
It's too hard.
Yeah,
too hard.
I know the answer. I know. I'm not telling. Dank Ferrick.
Some people were asking, all right, where does this, if Boba Fett is going to be the bad guy in this season, where does that put Moff Gideon? I think that, you can have room for more than one villain. I don't see Boba Fett being the big bad. I think Boba Fett's going to have an arc in this season, and as Jim has confirmed, then he's going off into his own show.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's a done deal.
He's going to go do Joni Loves Chachi.
Happening. Joni Loves Chachi. It's not going to be that kind of spin-off.
Mork and Mindy. Boba Fett's Nanu.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Maud.
Well, those are all very, very successful spinoffs, which of course Boba Fett will. There are some people, and there were actually a couple that were raising questions about the possibility of flashbacks. If we start hearing about the Clone Wars, if we start hearing about Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, any of these figures, Jim, that you were pointing out, what is their celebrity status? How well does the galaxy know who they are? Is there room for prequel actor cameos? Could we see some live action Clone Wars in the form of flashbacks, which we kind of already have, actually?
Yeah, right. We have little bits and pieces, just the part where the Mandalorians rescued Din when he was a kid, and they took him in as a foundling. we see that with the battle droids in those flashbacks, and man, do they look cool. So I think, anything is possible on this show. I mean, just how far do they want to push it? What kind of balls do they have?
Rick, hold on. Sorry, Rick 601 is asking about the armorer, pointing out that she has the horns on her helmet. Could she be a remnant of the Darth Mandalorians? That's interesting.
That's a good question.
Before we found out that this is some cult thing, and this may be, Jason, that to me leans into this could be Death Watch. The Children of the Watch could be Death Watch. I just kind of assumed that the armorer was as much a spiritual leader / historian. And so that her armor, the different parts of her armor may tell a different part of the history of the Mandalorian culture, and those horns being that time period when Darth Maul was kind of the bigwig on Mandalore.
Wow. That's a good theory. I like that.
Well, like now that we know he's part of this, now that we know he's part of this cult, for sure, it's Darth Maul. For sure it's that. But didn't Bo-Katan and Obi-Wan fight alongside each other? Is she not Satine's sister?
Yes, that is Satine's sister. So Obi-Wan's squeeze.
Yeah, at Mandalore reign.
Well, on that note. This has been a lot of fun, as these always are. A lot of great questions in the chat. Thank you all so much for joining us live. We appreciate it. We'll get the phones back in operation for next week. But man, oh man, what an episode. I think that each one of these fulfills a certain, or scratches a certain itch that we as Star Wars fans have had, all wanting a live-action Star Wars TV show. It's just from the incredible monsters that we meet every week. I think, will there be another Beast next week? What do you guys say?
Yes.
Yeah, let's go 4 for 4.
We're going to go 4 for 4. Bryce Dallas Howard, the director, did a fabulous job. The action sequences were incredible. I thought this whole episode was just, it's a mini Star Wars movie. It had a little bit of everything. It had great humor, had some drama, and kick butt action. I can't say enough about it. This is probably could be my all-time favorite episode of The Mandalorian. Actually, this episode right here.
Wow.
At 11 chapters in, it really, and once again, Baby Yoda, very cute, but isn't in your face and isn't stealing the show every 5 seconds. So they don't go to that well too much. At least in my opinion, they don't. All right, Jimmy Mack, final thoughts?
Not a single egg was consumed in this episode, so all you pearl clutchers out there on social media can calm down. No eggs were lost. And Frog Lady and Frog Man were proud parents, so nothing to see here as far as that's concerned. Satine Wren not in this episode. That's really all I have to say about this one.
Hey, when Frog Lady's eggs hatched, or the one egg hatched, and it was a little pollywog there, and Baby Yoda was pretty fascinated by it. But I don't think that he was fascinated by it in the way that a lot would assume he was. I think he wanted to eat that thing too.
Well, he's shown very little self-control. So I think just the fact that he sat there and patiently pet the thing, no matter how delicious it might have looked, I think he matured a little bit in this episode and learned that not all life should be consumed. So good for him, but he hungry. He
hungry. Steve, always great to have you with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great to be with you guys. I appreciate you having me on.
And anything coming up in the Galaverse at this time that you would like Rebel Force Radio listeners and watchers to know about?
Yeah, we're just plugging along, trying to make sure we're consistent with podcasts and everything as life tries to get back into normal. We've started a little YouTube channel. It's nothing as cool as this. We just kind of open old trading cards.
Really?
We've done Superman and Batman and We just find boxes at good prices.
The old wax packs.
Yeah, the old wax packs. We call it Back to the Wax Packs over on the Geek Out Loud YouTube channel.
Oh, I'm there. I'm there.
We try to have a good time doing it. We're working on some things to try to, we're trying to improve all the time. But I just love being on the show. I do want to say this. One thing we didn't talk about technically is there are a couple of shots that were really neat that we hadn't seen before, really in a Star Wars style. As the Razor Crest was crashing from the top down, that was kind of an interesting shot, almost handheld. And then as the Imperial ship was taking off and flying from the back, it was almost like a handheld camera kind of shot that we've never really seen anything like that. It just looked different than most Star Wars shots, not in a bad way, in a really good way. I agree with you. This episode really surprised me. It's the shortest one we've had this season. Man, it was good. But I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always so much fun to be on with you guys.
Well, we appreciate you. And we appreciate everybody listening. Don't forget about RebelForceRadio.com. If you missed an episode of the Mandalorian After Show or the Rebel Force Radio Weekly Podcast, the flagship show, just go to RebelForceRadio.com and or leave us a voicemail at 330-871. But you'd think I'd have that memorized, wouldn't you? 330-871
1737.
Thank you, 8737. Better yet, send us an email, show@rebelforceradio.com. That's a heck of a lot easier to remember. I've got a lot of phone numbers I'm dealing with, folks. All right, that's going to do it for us.
Steve, what about your Patreon? Did you mention that? Somebody's asking about supporting you.
Yeah, patreon.com/geekoutloud. We put big honking shows up there after they go out on the weekend, and we try to watch movies together and that sort of thing over there. So, yeah, if people want to help out over there, that's great. We appreciate your help.
All right, we'll see you next time. Next week, Chapter 12. If Chapter 11 is this good, what could be in store for Chapter 12? Jim, you're speculating no Ahsoka until Dave Filoni gets on that writing credit. No one else is going to write that character. So we're still an episode away.
The return of Grief Karga and Cara Dune next week.
All right, you heard it here first on the Rebel Force Radio Mandalorian After Show. We'll see you next time. Thank you all so much. Later.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
how we do it?
The Force will be with you, always.
It's only been 15 years.